This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep in your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
You guys, come on now, for crying out loud. We got to do this right. You know, that's a pretty good Niko impersonation.
Not bad.
All those old CSU guys are giggling. But he's a great guy, big personality, really smart, can read a room. You know what I mean? He knows, you know, so you walk into a living room, you're recruiting, he understands, okay, this is what's important. He goes to a donor group or whatever. He knows what's important. He just, he gets it. He's got a great personality. He's a leader. Like I said, he's got that vision. I love his vision for what he thinks. And I'm sure he's portrayed that to Mark Coyle and the Minnesota constituents. And you'll hear a lot more of it here coming soon as he's going to be the official mouthpiece of the Gophers.
That is the voice of San Jose State coach Tim Miles, who joined us yesterday to give us his scouting report on our next guest. Niko Medved, introduced officially as the new head men's basketball coach at the University of Minnesota, is kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. What's the letter grade you would give, Niko, to Tim in his attempt to do a Niko Medved impression?
That's not his best work. But Dan, I'll tell you this, I've known Tim for 25 years, and that's the nicest things he's ever said about me. So I promise you I didn't pay him to do that.
You did not. Yeah, he was very complimentary. There's no question about that. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to town, obviously. I mean, you know the town pretty well, so you're no stranger to here. And I want to cover a lot of ground, but some personal stuff, too, that I'm hoping we can address, because I know a little bit about the backstory, but I know, how did your dad end up coming here, specifically here to the Twin Cities or Minnesota area from the old country?
Well, it's really an amazing story. You know, his family, he's from Slovenia, and his dad and brothers and sisters, you know, had to flee during World War II, and they lived in a concentration camp for years, and you know, they had an opportunity. It's a crazy story, I think, to go to it was either Brazil or Argentina, and they waited because my grandfather said, no, we are going to go to the United States. And when they did that, you know, they ended up in the Iron Range up in Bowabic, and they came here with nothing and didn't speak the language, and you know, the rest is history. Went to Bowabic, ended up coming to the University of Minnesota for college. It's where I met my mom. Here I am. So it really is, when you learn about it, it's really an amazing story, the way that, you know, his family got to the United States and particularly got to Minnesota.
It is fascinating to me because we're reaching a point now where World War II, for a lot of people, you know, they can't even relate to it. right? That what you're talking about here, that some of us, I was born in 55, but obviously had great awareness, and my generation, I think, knows a lot about World War II. I don't even know if the kids do completely understand some of the struggles, some of the challenges, and some of the weird coincidences and circumstances that in which people end up, like your family, where they ended up.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think the other thing that just doesn't hit home for people is really how recent of history that is. In the context of everything, we're just talking a few, generations that way. And, it's really neat to hear my father talk about those things and those experiences. And, it obviously helped shape him, and to be honest, helped shape me. And so, but yeah, that's the story. That's how he ended up here and in the Iron Range, and has been here ever since.
How much danger were they in Slovenia before they were able to flee?
Dire. I mean, it was dire. It was at that time, and I don't remember how many years they lived in a concentration camp, waiting, to come over. And at that time, I know, their family was, upper middle class in Slovenia, and basically everything was taken from them, and had to live with nothing, and came here with nothing. And they're having large sandwiches for dinner, up in the middle of the winter. I mean, it's just something we can't understand, and no. I'm sitting here today in this unbelievable facility here with the best of everything, and it's really hard to have perspective sometimes.
Why did he have season tickets? You talked about that today at your presser. Basketball guy from the beginning, got into it because of his being at the U, or what was his? Why was he so committed to basketball and getting season tickets?
He was a sports fan, I mean, he had, Gopher football tickets too, was just a huge sport fan, was kind of involved in everything. Another great story, he and my uncle, who's, passed away, his brother, bought season tickets to the Vikings in 1961. I mean, I remember going to Met, when I was a really little kid, going to the old Met to watch Vikings. And so, no, he's just been a lifelong sports fan here in Minnesota. And like I said, he told me yesterday, I thought it was after I was born, but he actually had season tickets here to Gopher basketball before I was born. And I think he said he took me to my first game when I was 5 years old.
Wow, that's impressive. Let me ask you a question about this job. So if you did not have the emotional connection to this market, growing up in it to start, and belief in it, in other words, if this same job, Big Ten job, or maybe not even Big Ten job, opened up someplace else where you didn't have those sorts of emotional connections, would you feel the same about it? Because the battle we have on this show, not battle, but discussions we have forever, is how attractive this job is to folks who don't have the connection that you might, that Ryan Saunders might, that Eric Musselman, who we just had on Friday, might. Is this a good enough job, or was that the part of it that for you was the difference between in terms of gauging how interested you were in acquiring it?
I'd be lying to say otherwise. I mean, I think at the same point, take a step back of me being from Minnesota and all that, but you look at where college athletics is going, and I think that to hitch yourself to the Big Ten and the SEC is the right thing to do right now. I think they're the leaders of what's already going on and what the future of this thing looks like. So I think that in and of itself is really attractive. But it is there's no question. I mean, for me, it was interesting. My first head coaching job at Furman, I had been there as an assistant. That was a doormat. I think before I got there as a head coach, it was viewed as one of the worst 10 to 15 jobs in Division I. But it's kind of like, all right, I had been there as an assistant. I really loved the community. I thought there was a vision for that place. And so, you take somebody who believes in it, and listen, you're going to listen to all the reasons why we can't be successful, but I think you need to look at all the reasons why you can and try to leverage those things. And we were able to do that. 4 years later, we ended up winning a SoCon championship, and now it's viewed as one of the best jobs in the Southern Conference. And, Drake, I was only there for a year, just played a small part in that, but Drake was viewed the same way. And, now I would say, I mean, look at what happens at Drake. It's interesting. The last 3 Drake coaches are now in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's true.
Coaching. CSU, Colorado State, similar. I'd been an assistant there, and they hired me back as the head coach. And I think we've been able to put that program on footing in a way that's never been done. And maybe kind of go back to your question, it's you maybe see something in the job that other people don't. And in my case, too, I'd seen this place when it was at its best. And you remember, Dan, I mean, we would, when Clem was here, we could be playing Bethune-Cookman on a Tuesday night, and this place was full. And so, listen, the challenges are there, but you can't tell me that there's not that there somewhere in this community.
You mentioned Furman. That was another thing that I found interesting in the bio when I was kind of trying to get deep into it, that you were there once. The head coach is let go. I think it was Larry Davis. You're a finalist for the job. Then you don't get it. And then, as you say, ultimately, 7 years later, you end up there as the head coach. What I'm wondering is, where is your mind when you don't get that job? Was it humbling? Did you were you still committed to the idea of, I'm going to continue to coach? Was there any part of you that said, maybe this isn't for me? Because it's never fun to be rejected, I don't think. So what do you remember about that, and what that did to you in terms of your coaching career?
Well, I think I was young, dumb, and immature. So I'm sure at the time I probably was bitter, right? Like, I can't believe, but
sure.
I did, consider, do I really want to do this anymore? But, I had a mentor at the time, I'll never forget it, tell me, they said, Niko, I'm telling you, you're going to look back on this and it's going to be good for you. You're going to learn a lot through it. And sure as heck, how many years later, I get an opportunity to be a head coach for the first time. And a lot of those same people who were there, brought me back as the head coach. And obviously I wanted to be Division I head coach, right? So you're just trying to break in and do that. But I think what I learned is that, you always treat people right. Sometimes this is another job, the third job I've gotten at a place that I was an assistant coach. Colorado State, believe it or not, I actually interviewed for the head coaching job when Tim Miles left, and I didn't believe I was going to get it, but I didn't get that either, and I ended up coming back years later as the head coach. Yeah. And so you just tell young people, you never know. You're always interviewing, you make an impression. Sometimes the second time around it's better, and then I don't know, you feel more prepared, too. When I look back, I wasn't ready to be a head coach the first time at Furman, and I kind of needed all those other things to happen. And just like this job here at Minnesota, I feel more prepared to do this now than I ever have. New Gopher men's basketball coach Niko Medved, kind enough to join us here on the Fan on this lovely afternoon. So we're hearing, obviously I've seen your offense. We saw it was a terrific ball game the other day, by the way. That had to be just a soul-crushing kind of a loss for sure. I'm sure to a certain extent you're still not over it being competitive because it was such a good game. You were in good position to win. There's a lot of discussion about your offense and what you believe in and what you like to run. And we've heard some Princeton influence. We've heard some Beeline influence as well. How do you describe what you like to do offensively? Well, without, I get into the weeds on this, but, it all kind of started when I was young, and I used to watch Dana Altman's teams as head coach at Oregon now out at Creighton, and he had Kyle Korver, and he used to run this spread offense that I thought was one of the coolest things that I'd seen, and it was really effective for Creighton. I was at a mid-major at the time. Brad Underwood, who's now at, Illinois, was running the same thing. He became a head coach at Stephen F. Austin, and I kind of studied that, and when I got an opportunity at Furman, we eventually started doing it, and we really took off. And John Beeline became a friend, kind of a mentor for me. I love some of the stuff that he did at Richmond and West Virginia, and so I kind of made it a hybrid of that. And then I have a lot of my friends and stuff who I love the Princeton offense, and it's really kind of morphed into my own, Dan, and I kind of have my own terminology and there's some NBA stuff in there too, but I believe in ball movement. I think when the ball has energy, I think it brings energy to your team. We've always been among the leaders in the country in assists to field goals made. We've always been among the leaders in the country at 2-point field goal percentage. I think some of our spacing and cutting has allowed us to get, easier baskets. I like skilled players, guys who can shoot and pass, but at the same point in time, you got to have talent. It's a talent acquisition, business. And we've been able to have NBA players too playing that system. So I don't care what system you're playing. If you have pros, it's going to look better. But I think that's what fans can expect. And if they saw us play a little bit, in the NCAA tournament or the Mountain West tournament, I think they can get a feel for kind of what we want to do here. And I think players love it. They get better. It helps improve their skill. And I'm at the NBA Summer League or around. I think a lot of the pro coaches have told me, hey, coach, we really like how you guys play. And our guys who have been to NBA camps and stuff have told me, hey, coach, we feel really prepared. I'm going in here, and we've learned the same things in your program conceptually that we're seeing at the highest level, and that makes me feel good, and that's what we have to do here.
It's fun to watch for sure. I agree with that. It can be very crowd pleasing for sure. You know this market well, and the subject that we've explored on this show over the decades, quite frankly, and when I was still writing, I used to write about it as well. That one of the unique aspects of being a Big Ten coach in this market is it is a pro market largely, or has been, obviously. You're not the only team in town. You're not the only game in town. Now, you have maybe other advantages that you're in a major metropolitan area, and that can, I think, work to your advantage too. But can you speak to that, whether you think there are greater challenges? That a lot of university towns, as you know, to a certain extent, there's a built-in audience, and this is the team, this is the game in town. And here, you obviously have hockey, you've got football, you've got baseball, you've got pro basketball. Does that make this more challenging, you think, to cut through and get to the place you want to get to, where the barn is full or close to full again?
Well, I think there is a challenge. I mean, there's a lot of entertainment here in the Twin Cities. People in Minnesota love sports. I mean, they're all about it. I know that growing up here, I own a Homer hanky, Dan. I was there.
Right.
I watched Gary at the Dome miss the only field goal of the year. So I get it, the fans here. But what I would say to that is, we have to win. I mean, that's what it is. We know that. Nobody understands that more than a coach. We got to put a product out there that people want to come and see and believe we're going to win and be competitive. When you do that, they will show up. It's not like Lincoln, Nebraska, right, where you're going to have 18,000 no matter how the team is doing. I think that's different maybe here, but you just hit it on the head too. I think the great part about it is that you do have all those things right here in the city. It's just an unbelievable place to go to school and to be a part of. There's so many opportunities here with all the pro sports team, the entertainment, the Fortune 500 companies and all that stuff. So I think it's balancing both of those. And I'm just a believer, man, you got to try to leverage your strengths, but we got to win. Well, we know that we have to win, and we have to put a great product out there. And, that's our challenge, and that's what we intend to do. But I have no doubt, when we do that, the fans will be back.
Well, despite my reputation, believe it or not, I'm not trying to bring you down with this stat, but it's factual, and I'm curious to get your view on it. Clem was dismissed in 1999, and since then, so the better part of 25 years or so, the Gophers, the men's basketball team, has finished with a winning record in the Big Ten 3 times. 3 out of basically 25 years. So to me, that's always been the measuring stick, that not that necessarily you got to win Big Ten titles every year, but can this program get to a place where it's not shocking news if it finishes not just with a winning record, but a winning Big Ten record? What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that's exactly right. And obviously now this is the highest level, and we've had to do that, in every league that we've been to. But I agree. I think it's a lot harder to be among the top teams in your league than it is even to win, 2 games in March sometimes. And so that is the challenge. And it is. This is the highest level. But, if you're able to do that in the Big Ten and to finish, winning in the Big Ten, you're going to play in the NCAA tournament. You're going to probably have an opportunity to be ranked. You probably got great players, and probably the barn is full. But it's since Coach was here, and I worked for Coach. It's been a long road, and I just feel like I was talking to Justin about this. I think sometimes timing is everything, right? And I mean, I'm kind of betting on that. This is the time. There's a lot of transformation in college athletics. Maybe everything's converging at the right time. I think the public and the people understand the kind of commitment it's going to take to win. I think they want to win. We've got talent here. We got a lot of things working in our favor too. But hopefully all things can converge at the right time, and maybe it's time for that renaissance of Gopher basketball, so to speak.
Will you fix the non-conference schedule? Because I know it's a balancing act. I get that, especially when you're trying to make a jump that you in a conference where obviously there's lots of good teams, you do not want to necessarily from the beginning load your non-conference schedule. But I do think, again, in this town, that's part of what hurts. If every team is hyphenated and nothing seems to happen until you get to January, that then it seems to convey a message that we really aren't trying to compete at the highest levels. Is there a middle ground where you can vow today to Gophers fans that there will be some good games occasionally scheduled the first couple of months of the season?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I think, in trying to, I'll be honest, I don't even know what's already scheduled or contracted for next year. I don't know that, but yes, I mean, I think it's important to do that. And, there's obviously games in the barn and then these multi-team events too, to try to get in good multi-team events where you're playing really good competition, in the non-league. I think that's important, to be able to do that. And you're right. It's a balancing act when you're playing in the league that we're playing in, but I agree with that. I think, fans want to see maybe some better opponents, and I think we'll do that. I got asked today in the press conference about playing St. Thomas. I knew that was coming, and I know Coach Tower over there. I just said, listen, I don't think that they can fit us in their schedule. I called John, and I don't think that he wants to play us. So, and that was supposed to be a joke, and nobody laughed,
did they? So there's a lot of sensitivity. We get, I'd say, on average during the basketball season, 5 St. Tommy alum texts a day. I mean, so there's a very loyal following. There's a certain, we kind of tweak some of the arrogance of the Tommies a little bit too. So you are going to be prepared. You're going to be fighting that. And look, their ascension is tremendous. I think you would agree. It's a great story. But you're going to, get used to it. You're going to hear a lot more about that. Go ahead.
I thought Minnesotans love sarcasm, so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, maybe they just have to get used to it again from you because you've been gone so long. Maybe that's it. Last question for you, and this goes back to our conversation yesterday. So there's so much discussion about the NIL world, and I don't want to go too far down that road, and even the revenue share thing. But Miles said, look, one thing I know about Niko, he's a hell of a negotiator, and I got to believe that he required Mr. Coyle to bring out the spreadsheets on exactly what the financial commitment is going to be. Because you said this today in the presser. Money is part of this thing. It's undeniable at this point. So how specific did you ask or demand that Mark Coyle get when you're putting together, indeed, whether this is the right fit for you about what, I don't know if there's such things as guarantees when it comes to this money or what the commitment's going to be, because the commitment, quite frankly, has not always been here. Coyle seems to be indicating for next year, with the revenue share, he's intent on a certain percentage, a good percentage, putting your program maybe in the top 5 in the conference when it comes to that money. How specific did you need to get, or what kind of specifics did you need to get from Coyle in that regard?
Well, I mean, it's at the forefront of every discussion now. I mean, again, like if you don't have, I think Mark Coyle said, I heard him say a couple of years ago, there's the only thing more important in college athletics than money is oxygen, right? Like, yeah. I mean, it's what it is. And so, obviously we had, lengthy discussions about that and what we needed it to look like. I feel comfortable with that. We've got work to do still, Dan. I mean, there's no question. I mean, we need people to support, Dinkytown athletes and that way. But I do believe there's support here. I think we can hit the ground running. I really do. But we do have more work to do. But I guess what I feel like there's an understanding, maybe for the first time, from the top down and in our community of what it really is going to take to be successful. PJ's figured it out.
Yes.
I think over in football, and it's taken some work, and that means there's no reason we can't figure it out either. But that's everybody. That's starting with Mark and the other team and myself, and our staff and engaging people and helping them understand. But yes. Of course, that was at the forefront of some of the discussions because we want to win. We want to do this right because none of that matters if we're not able to acquire talent and retain talent. And doesn't matter how you coach and how pretty your offense is. if you don't have that, you're not going to be successful.
I know you were asked about this today, and you said, hey, I'm going to give my players a few days here to sort of, let things settle down and revel in the successful run, etc. But whatever you end up doing in terms of who you bring, how quickly are we going to know? How quickly does this? Because in this world, we assume whether you want it to be fast or not, you have no choice because everything seems to be moving so quickly in this new environment. So will we know pretty soon?
Well, we'll see. I mean, again, I have a great relationship with those guys. I mean, I know you know this, but I've been Seattle, Washington, getting beat at the buzzer by Derek Queen, and 20 hours later, I'm in Minneapolis.
Yeah, sure.
Here, and meeting with the team, and I just told those guys, like, take some time, and my assistant, Ali Frotmanesh is in the process of hopefully becoming the next head coach at Colorado State, kind of working through some of those things too,
sure,
before we really try to get, into, some of the player stuff and, finishing the staff and all that. But, hopefully we'll know something sooner rather than later, but we're on it.
I appreciate the time. Welcome back to town, and we hope we can do the visits every once in a while. Thanks again.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Niko Medved is the new men's basketball coach, University of Minnesota. That became official with his presser today, and he was kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. We've got Louie in about an hour. We've got in studio, looky here, Aaron Gleeman is indeed back. Lots to get to regarding the Twins. Season right around the corner. A lot of previewing to get to. And then there was that interesting little athletic story relating to the Twins ownership situation that we might have commented on already, and you might have even read the acerbic comments from Mr. Gleeman when that story came out as well. All of that coming up next.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than a life policy. It's about the promise and the responsibility that comes with being a new parent. Being there day and night. And building a plan for tomorrow, today. For the ones you'll always look out for, trust Amica Life Insurance. Amica. Empathy is our best policy.
I think technically baseball season has already begun. I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
Weren't there games in Japan?
2 games, yeah.
In Japan. I was talking to Guardsy about that. That's the voice already of Aaron Gleeman, kind enough to join us in studio as we start getting ever closer to the Twins season opener. And I got to admit, I was less interested in having you on today to discuss the usual sort of, obligatory preview stuff, which is fine for what it is, and more about the big athletic piece, a 3 byline piece. That's big.
Yeah.
When you
3
get
good bylines,
three
too.
very good bylines. Dan
book,
Hayes,
yeah.
Kenny Rosenthal, who I go way back with, and Brittany, is it pronounced Giroli?
Yeah. 3 of, I'm biased, obviously. Although I'm not really one to compliment Dan unnecessarily just because they get a big head about it.
Yeah.
But that's 3 of the better reporters in baseball that you can get together.
The headline, Pohlad seeking at least $1.7 billion for the Twins, have more than $425 million in debt. on the book. So for the folks who, let's pretend we have people listening who've not followed any of this story and go, what the hell is this about? What does that mean exactly?
I envy them so much.
I'm sure you do. Correct. So dumb down this story or translate the meaning in the reportage, you think, of this particular story in a way that the average rube should appreciate.
Okay. Well, so in November, they publicly say they're putting the team up for sale. And Justin Ishbia, whose brother, Matt Ishbia, owns the Phoenix Suns, emerged as a leading candidate, let's say. He was also really the only confirmed publicly known candidate, which is another issue. And it's my understanding, and there's been reporting not only from The Athletic but elsewhere about this, that they got pretty far down the road with him to the point that I think the Twins brass felt, all right, this could be the guy. This could be legit. This could be a sale. And then you started to hear various reporting of, he's not going to have the keys by opening day, but maybe we can get this in place, at or around opening day. Then Ishbia pulls out of talks, pivots to the White Sox because he lives and works and is building an $80 million compound in Winnetka.
Now, let me ask you about that. Somebody told me earlier today that it's an $800 million. That's not possible. It's got to be 80, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
What could you for $8? Now, here, I'm not judging, but I am asking. Yeah. I mean, isn't that like a whole city? $800 million?
I do think that he basically bought the whole thing, and there are lawsuits pending.
That's true, because he bought several other lots, and he's trying to clear his own. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But he kind of left them at the altar a little bit, not quite at that level. But once that happened, which was about a month and change ago, maybe something like that, it was in February, then maybe not square one, but the Twins were back to the drawing board there. And I think they had focused so much on Ishbia that if there were suitors that they took seriously, they had kind of backed off on that. So they had to restart those talks or jump back into those talks. So the reporting that you're referencing, which came out last night at The Athletic, basically was they still have suitors interested. They've rejected a valuation of around $1.5 billion. And if you look at Forbes or some other business outlets that have kind of estimated it, it's somewhere between 1.4 and 1.7. So 1.5, it's not bad. They rejected that, and you referenced the headline. The reason given or the stance taken is, well, we can't take 1.5 billion, only 1.5 billion, because we have 425 million in debt on the books. And if we pay that off, we're only left with less than 1.1 billion to split amongst the grandchildren and the cousins and the Pohlad family. So we need 1.7 billion at minimum so that we can, our walkaway money can be sufficient. And so that was the gist of the report. And then within that,
you suggested via Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it these days, that you find this particular stance remarkable messaging even by Pohlad standards.
I mean, I don't put anything past them in terms of making me shake my head at this point. But what they're basically saying is, as reported, is we can't sell you this for this low of a price because we're losing too much money on it, or our debt is too high. And the one thing I will say about the debt, I know a lot of people saw that $425 million, and I'm certain that's accurate, the reporting, but that doesn't mean they've lost $425 million running the Minnesota Twins baseball club. It means that they've put debt on their books, sometimes intentionally, because debt can be cheap, and I'm no business insider or anything, but it's a fairly basic concept. And so it would be hard to rack up $400+ million in baseball only debt over the course of 5 or 6 years when the payroll is $120 million. Now, there are other expenses, certainly, but they're getting $100 million in TV money from MLB before a pitch is thrown every year, and their total revenue is well over 200, 300 million, something like that.
We didn't get the $50 million from the regional deal, remember?
But the other thing is, they always talk, well, we got to run it like a business. We can't go out there and sign this and sign that. Well, who says they're running it like a good business? And also, let's say that the $400 million in debt were somehow entirely baseball related, which I reject as a premise, but let's just go along with that. Do you think that just got magically dropped on their doorstep, $400 million? Or did they make decisions along the way to, let's say, not invest in the team coming off the most successful season in 20 years, or to botch the television situation, or just the overall messaging of the team? There's a long list of things that they've done to hurt their own business. And so it is if you flip it, as you said, I tweeted about it, it is absurd to think in any other line of any business. It was well, I'd like to sell you my restaurant, honestly, but I can't sell it this cheap because I'm just losing my shirt on it. It's like, what do you mean?
I still want to run it after I sell it to you. Now, a couple people said, look, in the real business world, that happens all the time. But where I think it's apples and oranges, because in those businesses, a lot of times there are smaller businesses where you say, well, they're so good at this particular part of the business, we're just going to leave them alone and we're going to let them in. This is the business. And I don't know. Maybe you can tell me there's much precedent for a billionaire, baseball, whatever, sports owner, a would-be owner, buying a team and saying, we're going to keep the people who ran the thing. I'm talking about general manager or coach. Right. Talking about chairman of the board, whatever the big title is, in that position. I think it's unheard of, isn't it, in that sense?
Particularly when, and I'm going to try to be as nice about this as I can, what can you point to that Joe Pohlad has overseen in his 3+ years on this job? And also, that really doesn't go with the debt topic.
Seems to be a contradiction.
If you're piling up $400-something million in debt to the point that it's such an issue that you can't accept a reasonable price for the team, and most of that debt, as reported, has come since 2020, so largely during his tenure.
Right.
Well, how does that jibe? Like, how does that? And so
none of it does.
I will say, reading, I heard at the beginning of the show where you read the excerpt from the article, and that was, as I was reading the article, that is what made me pause and go, did I read that correctly? But I think it is as absurd as you thought, and I agree. And I think in general, people would agree the idea that they're going to sell this for $1.6 billion to some other billionaire, and he's going to go, you can stay, you can keep running. I mean, that is just a non-starter.
No.
But what I wonder about is if it's more referring to the notion that they could kind of restructure the Pohlad-based ownership. In other words, Joe Pohlad wants to own the team, and maybe there's a couple other third-generation people, cousins, grandparents, grandkids and all that, who want to continue. But the other X number, they want out.
They want the money.
Can we buy them out?
Okay.
And if not that, could we find someone who wants to buy, let's say, half, and then this restructured Pohlad contingent can buy the other half? Maybe in those circumstances,
yes,
Joe Pohlad sticks around and runs it, if not as the main guy, maybe second in command, third in command. But even that, you would have to think, who's going to come in and spend that type of money on this sort of business at a point where the television thing is in flux, the attendance is down, the morale's down, and go, we don't need to change much. The guy who's been running it and got us in this spot for the last 3 years, let him stick around. So I don't think it would be a totally new ownership coming in and that would even be feasible, but it could be feasible if there's still a level of Pohlad ownership, because we talked about this, I think I was like here months and months ago when this first came out maybe, and we talked about it. Joe Pohlad does enjoy owning the team, and he's certainly, relative to the other third-generation Pohlads, he's the guy who wants to own it, who doesn't want to sell it, but he's kind of outnumbered at this point, and there's not a lot, I think, that he can point to in terms of recent successes that he can say, like, we're on the upward trajectory here, especially with the debt maybe. So I could see him sticking around if they restructured it based around a different level of Pohlad ownership. But I think it's just not even feasible to be like some other billionaire is going to come in and let the existing billionaire stick around.
Aaron Gleeman in studio. Let's get a quick early break in. Much, much more to get to. Don't go.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than a life policy. It's about the promise and the responsibility that comes with being a new parent. Being there day and night. And building a plan for tomorrow, today. For the ones you'll always look out for, trust Amica Life Insurance. Amica. Empathy is our best policy.
You guys know I'm always up for a good MVP story, and one of the best is the story of Wasabi Technologies. Wasabi is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the world's hottest cloud storage company, becoming the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams and leagues around the world, and here's why. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, data deletion, and ransomware, Wasabi's taken the lead in driving innovation in data storage, eliminating overhead where it matters to deliver you results you can count on and won't break the bank. In fact, Wasabi is up to 80% less than those other guys and doesn't charge a cent for businesses to access their own data. Wasabi, another championship story. Check them out for free at wasabi.com.
Aaron Gleeman is back in studio. A couple more things regarding ownership. So, does this mean we are back to the Twins are back to square one, or is it no? There's a bunch of people, they just haven't yet been identified, because there's a part of me that now believes if it's going to happen at all, it ain't going to happen. I'm even wondering now if it's going to happen at all at any point during this season. I mean, how far back does this push everything, do you think?
I mean, quite a bit. I mean, I think in general, even when Ishbia was at the forefront of it, people probably, and I may be guilty of this too, underestimated just how long this process takes. Even if you identify a leading suitor and everything goes smoothly, it's still going to be closer to a year than like a quarter, let's say.
Right.
And so now I do think they have suitors, I don't know, multiple, whatever. They rejected a $1.5 million or billion-dollar bid. And so if they're in a place where they can do that, regardless of what you think about the family and the walkaway money and the debt, if you're rejecting $1.5 billion, just full on no, not like, maybe they countered, who knows, you've got to be in a fairly decent position, assuming you actually want to sell the thing. I know that's the biggest fear that Twins fans have is, was this all just kind of for
Take
show?
The pressure off. Yes.
And I kind of understand that in the sense that, the last 3 or 4 months, let's say, the pressure has been less because people are like, okay, we still have these issues with the Pohlads, but they're going to be on the way out. But my problem with that as sort of a conspiracy theory is I don't think they're dumb enough to think that pressure would stay off all the time. And in fact, if at the point you pull it off the market, it's going to be 10 times more criticism. You put the carrot in front of people now and then you pulled it away. There's going to be even more anger. And, even this information coming out right before opening day in terms of ticket sales and streaming product subscriptions and all that, it's not great for them. Like, morale is already pretty low. I think if you pull this off the market and basically say, hey, we're keeping it in the family, I don't know how much lower you can get, but you can get lower, I think. And so that's the one thing that I reject as an idea behind, like, they were never intending to sell it. Everything I've heard from people behind the scenes is that they did intend to sell it. And in fact, they were a lot of people behind the scenes there who thought they had a buyer in Justin Ishbia. So now, whether they will sell it or not, taking it off the market is a possibility. Like I said, maybe kind of transitioning to a different setup model, involving Pohlads is a possibility. But I still think, and maybe this is just wishful thinking, that they will sell. I think, if you're rejecting offers for $1.5 billion and you say you need $1.7 billion, I'm not some math whiz, but like, you should be able to find some common ground there, or maybe they take on some of that debt. There are ways you can do this that people walk away happy and everybody can get their second or third or eighth yacht and still be thrilled with how this went. So, but yeah, timing wise, first it was, let's hope this is somewhat settled by opening day. Well, that's out the window. Then I think your next kind of date cutoff is, it would be great to have new owners in place by the July 31st trade deadline, so that if the team is in contention, they could maybe say, here's $10 million, go get a right-handed bat and a starting pitcher. Well, I would say that's probably even unlikely, because that's, 3+ months from now. I guess now I just would say, if you can get it by 2025 calendar year and go into next offseason with new ownership in place, that would at least be something.
They'll have to just live with the likelihood that people will be working harder to smuggle in anti-Pohlad signs to the building and then get thrown out and then get video moments.
We've never seen
viral moments.
A lame duck Pohlad ownership, what the reaction would be to that.
That's a good point. So if I have this right, the Twins open this Thursday, correct?
Yes.
So 2 days from now, day game at St. Louis. Now, the average Twins rube, who is still curious about the club and says it's a new baseball season, and I'm gonna watch. Do they know how to watch? Do we know yet how to what's the method by which you can watch Twins baseball as soon as this Thursday at 3:15?
Well, let me preface this by saying I've gone on some rants on my podcast, which is called Gleeman and the Geek, and the Twins were not happy about that. I heard from many Twins people. So let me try to phrase this. First of all, their new streaming product, direct to consumer, called twins.tv. That's the website. $20 a month, $100 a year. If you sign up for that, super
You're
easy.
in.
Any
Okay.
way you stream, just, like all other streaming apps, you can put it on your TV, you can watch on your phone, your laptop. That's available now. It's been available during spring training. In terms of now this is flipped because now the streaming is available and people have questions about traditional old school cable and satellite television. They have not released information yet fully on like the major Comcast and Spectrum, and I think DirecTV is not quite settled yet, but they've I saw the other day Paul Bunyan Cable or whatever is all these tiny little outstate places they've announced first. Their issue that they got upset with my rants about this, because I do think it stinks for Twins fans that, like you said, if they don't announce this, how are they going to get the word out to every grandparent who wants to watch opening day? And they're on Twitter. They're supposed to know every press release that comes out. And so that's my issue. The Twins' point on that was we're not even in charge of this. MLB is the one negotiating.
So if you're mad, get mad at them.
Right. Which, yes, but two things can be true. Get mad at MLB, but you can also say it stinks for Twins fans. But yeah, MLB, the Twins are one of 5 teams, Arizona, Colorado, San Diego, Cleveland, that are in the exact same boat of streaming product available, but also need to negotiate a standalone channel on all the major cable and satellites. And the way that'll work, and they keep saying they're confident, I do think it'll be in place by opening day, but I just think dragging their feet on it makes no business sense at all. You want people to start to get excited for opening day, not announce 10 hours before, it's channel 858 or whatever. But the way it will work, assuming they do find channels and announce this, is it'll be a standalone channel and it'll basically be dormant except for a half hour before the game, and then 20 minutes after the game, it'll go back to being dormant. There won't be like ancillary programming, or at least not yet.
Yeah, I mean, again, it doesn't matter whether this is on the Twins or if it's on Major League Baseball. I mean, the indictment is just we're back to what I said first segment. How is this possible? This is another how is this possible moment where you go, the season is starting. So again, if this is all about Major League Baseball not figuring this thing out, how is it possible that you cannot give people from the start of the season, before a single pitch has been thrown for these teams, the opportunity to find out exactly how they can follow the team? It is mind-blowing, is it not?
And while they insist, and I do believe them, that it's going to end up being on the same tiers as like Bally or FanDuel were. So like there are going to be people who are going to discover that morning or that afternoon on Thursday, actually, I have to upgrade to this, or I have to sign up for this. And you don't want to provide a barrier for entry for your customer that your customer base is already shrunken and sort of upset at the product they're buying. They're hardcore enough fans to seek it out still. You don't want to put a speed bump in front of that. But from all that they've insisted, and it would be a hell of a thing for them to yell at me about this, insist it, and then be proven correct, it will be on every major carrier by Thursday at 2:30, let's say. But before then, and it's also, I can tell you from my standpoint, we get dozens of questions about this on every platform.
Sure.
Social media, comment sections, emails. They've done a very poor job of getting the word out, and they're relying on people like me to spread the word. And I'm willing to do that as a public service to try to calm people down, but also the proof is in the put. Like, I'm not going to say something is going to happen if I don't know it's going to happen. But they continue to insist that you'll be able to watch them. And like I said, if you want streaming, that's been available for a month and a half, 2 months now.
All right, let's get the top of the hour pause in here. No Top 5 at 5 today. More with Aaron Gleeman in studio. As I mentioned, Lou Nanny will join us at about 5:30. If you have questions for Gleeman, Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open, 64686.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep in your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
Yo, what's good? It's Jeff C. from Club 520 Podcast here to share my latest fresh take on the 2025 NCAA Tournament, brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of March Madness. This past weekend was a great round 32. I had the best game of the year. Had to be the Maryland versus Colorado State game. It ended with a game winner. It was exciting. Derek Quinn, good shot. Looking ahead to the Sweet 16, I'm really looking forward to watching Arkansas versus Texas Tech. I'm looking forward to it because it's similar styles. They both play hard defense. They both gritty teams, and they play in the post. It should be a battle for the ages. I'm also looking forward to the Duke versus Arizona game. Both elite programs, legendary status. It should be a battle that we all looking forward to. Probably be the game of the night. And when it comes to the Final Four, I'm all in on Duke and Houston. Two great coaches, two legendary programs. Should be exciting for their road to the Final Four. More from me soon, but while you're watching the games, remember, the freshest deal in fast foods gotta be Wendy's. Right now, you can get a junior bacon cheeseburger or a double stack for $1 with the in-app offer and purchase. Again, head to the Wendy's app to grab a $1 junior bacon cheeseburger or a $1 double stack with the in-app offer and a purchase for the freshest hamburger around. Gotta be Wendy's, the official hamburger of March Madness.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check for the nearest bathroom first before the game starts. Now you're heading in the wrong direction, and it sounds like your team's taking the lead. Checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.